In 2004, Bulgarian archaeologists opened one of the largest burial mounds in the valley of the Thracian Kings. Inside, they found everything a ruler might need for eternity. A gold wreath, weapons, silver vessels engraved with his name, a monumental stone chamber built for a king. There was only one problem. The king was missing. The tomb is attributed to Seuthes III, founder of the Thracian city of Seuthopolis and one of the most powerful rulers of his age. No trace of his body was ever found. What survived instead was something stranger, a carefully constructed monument to a man who may never have been buried there at all. The presumed owner of the tomb was Seuthes III, ruler of the Odrysian Kingdom of Thrace between approximately 330 and 300 BC. He lived during one of the most chaotic periods of the ancient world. Alexander the Great was dead, his empire had fractured, and his generals were fighting over the pieces. Among them was Lysimachus, the Macedonian commander whom Alexander himself had appointed governor of Thrace. For Seuthes, that posed a problem. Thrace was his homeland, but it was also someone else's province. His first appearance in the historical record comes during the 320s BC. When the Macedonian general Opinion was defeated by the GT, Seuthes seized the opportunity and launched an Odrysian revolt. A few years later, in 322 BC, he fought Lysimachus tirelessly. Neither side achieved a decisive victory. Instead, they settled into an uneasy coexistence. Lysimachus controlled the coast. Seuthes controlled the interior. The arrangement held for a time. Then it broke. In 313 BC, the two men were at war again. This time with Seuthes aligned with Antigonus the One-Eyed and blocking the mountain passes of Haemus. He never defeated Lysimachus outright, but he was never defeated either. And in the unstable world left behind by Alexander, survival could be its own form of victory. Seuthes used that breathing room to build. His most ambitious project was Seuthopolis, a planned city near modern Cathanlak laid out according to the Hippodamian grid. Not a village, not a fortress, a city. Because legitimacy could be built with armies, but it could also be built with stone. 7 meters from the tomb's facade, archaeologist Georgi Kitov's team made another discovery. Buried beneath a pile of stones lay a bronze head slightly larger than life. It had once belonged to a royal statue. At some point, it had been violently removed. The face is unmistakably human, not youthful, not idealized. A mature ruler marked by age, authority, and war. The eyes are especially striking. Alabaster sclera, glass pupils. Even now, they seem almost alive. The features match those depicted on Thracian coinage. The identification was immediate. This was Seuthes III. The sculpture was probably produced by a Greek workshop, connected to the circle of the sculpture Silanion. Yet it does not behave like a Greek portrait. Greek artists often improve a reality. They soften imperfections. They elevated their subjects. This portrait does the opposite. It records wrinkles, weight, experience, even a small wart on the left cheekbone. Details that no idealizing sculpture would normally choose to preserve. It is a Thracian ruler portrayed through Greek craftsmanship. The burial of the bronze head remains one of the great mysteries of the site. Why remove it from the statue? Why bury it separately? And why place it directly in front of the tomb? No one knows for certain. Several interpretations have been proposed. Some scholars connect the act to Orpheus, the legendary Thracian singer whose severed head continued to prophesy after death. Others see the head as a guardian, a symbolic presence watching over Seuthopolis and the kingdom beyond. The explanation remains uncertain. The intention does not. The act was deliberate, careful, and almost certainly ritual. The silver vessel found inside the tomb tell a different story. Each carries an inscription naming Seuthes and recording its weight. At first glance, they resemble prestige objects, symbols of rank, symbols of power. But the inscription reveals something more practical. They are accounting records. The weight is recorded in monetary units, not because the vessels were decorative, but because the silver itself had value. In an emergency, it could be converted into coin, used to pay soldiers, fund campaigns, or sustain the royal treasury. Those were luxury objects, but they were also assets, which makes their presence inside the tomb particularly intriguing, because the monument was beginning to look less and less like an ordinary burial. The greatest mystery lay at the center of the mound. The king was absent. The burial chamber contained a granite sarcophagus weighing roughly 60 tons. Inside were a ritual bed and an offering table. 3 objects carried Seuthes' name: a helmet, a silver chalice, a silver yoke, and the gold wreath rested where his head should have been. Everything pointed toward a royal burial, except the ruler himself. The most widely accepted explanation is that Seuthes died far from Seuthopolis. Perhaps on campaign, perhaps somewhere his followers could not recover the body. Under this interpretation, the mound is a cenotaph, a tomb without a corpse, a monument built to preserve memory, not to contain remains. A second theory proposes something different. Researchers Stoyanov and Stoyanova suggest the final burial ceremony may have taken place decades later, around 275 BC. If so, the monument may have been organized by Seuthes' widow Berenike and their descendants during a period of political uncertainty. Not a funeral, a statement, a way of reinforcing dynastic legitimacy by transforming the founder into a heroic ancestor. One object may support this interpretation: a gilded silver pyxis shaped like a seashell, an item associated with women rather than warriors. Some scholars have even suggested it was Berenike's personal offering, a private gesture hidden within a public ceremony. Before the monument was sealed, something remarkable happened. The great marble doors separating the chambers were deliberately destroyed. Their fragments were then used to block the entrances. The passage between the worlds of the living and the dead was closed forever. One door carried Helios, god of the sun. The other bore the face of Medusa. Together, they marked a threshold, and then that threshold was broken. The tomb of Seuthes III contains no king, only traces: a crown with no head to wear it, a bronze face buried at the entrance, and a monument built to preserve memory long after the man himself had vanished. Perhaps that is why the tomb remains so compelling. It is not really about death. It is about remembrance, about how power survives when the ruler does not. Sometimes, the most enduring rulers are not the ones who leave the body behind. They are the ones who leave a story. And sometimes archaeology is fortunate enough to find them both. Because on the northern coast of Peru, another ruler waited beneath the desert for more than 15 centuries. Unlike Seuthes III, the Lotos Ipan was still there, still wearing his crown, still surrounded by the symbols of his power, and still guarding the secrets of the Moche built on ritual, sacrifice, and kingship.